Hello and welcome to our podcast, Lift Me Up. My name is Valerie.
And my name is Borut.
At the moment, we are in Canada, in Vancouver.
Yeah. 8,800 kilometers from our cozy atelier.
Yeah, and we are at Art Vancouver 2026.
Yep.
And-
We came to this fair to, among other artists, and we got an idea and about a new podcast. And the title of this podcast is...
An artist abroad.
But before we start the podcast, why are we here? We are here
Yeah.
because of somebody.
So yeah, maybe before we start with the topic, why artists need to travel and why artists need to go abroad often is that, the reason why we are in Canada is actually, well, there's many reasons. First reason is that I'm here through Slovenian Armed Forces in one conference about artificial intelligence, robotics, and vision. I was at Simon Fraser University. We were dealing a lot with different technologies of the future, how technology is impacting the society, the biology, science, and arts.
Yep. And I'm here to cook and clean.
No, but we have a mission in Canada. After this week, we are traveling to Montreal when Borut will have a workshop and about 19th century glass photography, which is something completely opposite than artificial intelligence.
So tomorrow we are already going to, well, actually we are already there since you're listening to this in Montreal, which is other side of Canada, and Canada is such a huge country. We were in Quebec. Montreal is part of the Quebec.
Last year, that was last year.
County, and the guy Francis said,
Our friend Francis.
only Quebec is like size of 5 France. And I said, that's not possible. I think France is huge,
But
actually
Canada
it's true.
is even bigger.
Only Quebec. And now this is really like for us Europeans, especially for us coming from Slovenia, a small tiny country, this vastness of the country is just unimaginable.
Yeah, it's huge. So we will be in Canada for 3 weeks. First week is behind us. It was amazing. It was very productive also. We were working a lot, not just like on the conference, but we were dealing a lot with the plannings for the future. And I think this topic somehow came organically to us because like an artist abroad, we are both artists, we are traveling a lot. And we were thinking of starting this discussion about our experience from the past. Like, for example, I wanted to ask Borut how his journey abroad started when you were still like becoming an artist.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, I went to a secondary school for carpentry. So, I was doing photography all the time. Like that was where my passion lived, and where actually I was very serious about it. And I wanted to go and study. And at that time, we were talking 90s. In Slovenia, there was like no higher education than secondary school. And of course, everybody who wants to have a little bit more ambition on photography field had to go abroad. And I picked probably the best academy in Europe.
Which one?
At the time. The one that we both went, which is FAMU Academy in Prague.
How is it the whole title if you say FAMU? That's a short for film.
Filmové televizijska fotografija Akademije muzických umení.
So film and television academy.
So Academy for Fine Arts, basically.
Yeah. So you went to Prague, right? But of course it's important that artists go to study abroad, I guess, and get some experience. But maybe before we go into deeper topic of why changing the surroundings is having like a huge impact on, I don't know, how to say, inspiration.
Yeah.
Why was it important that you went abroad?
You know what? I'm just going to sum up my experience first. So I was 19, or not even 9. I think I was 19. I went to Prague for about 4 years, which was like a huge deal because, coming from a small town in Slovenia to go to the
Yeah.
big metropolis of Prague. That was really huge cultural shock. After the BA degree in photography and fine arts, I went to Fabrica. That's like a United Colors of Benetton in Italy, Treviso, where I worked for a year with Oliviero Toscani. And after that, I went to London for my postgraduate studies. So this is like my studies, and then of course I there also I went to United States for workshops and Spain and so on. So
Would you say, like when you're talking, you went there and there and there and there? It's like for you, it sounds quite, I would say, easy step when you say that. But I'm
no,
sure it was a
no,
struggle.
no. Actually, going from a carpentry school to finish to do an entry exam and without any background in photography, like I could, I didn't have a mentor or tutor or somebody. I just had one guy who actually explained me how to technically properly develop a black and white print. And then I read all the books that I could put my hands on photography. And actually, I was really good. I remember I've done one really amazing retouching technique that I've read in some German book. I use Chrome, I use tracing paper, I use graphic film. I made like for each picture, I had four or five layers. Anyway, it was like sandwich. Anyway, it was very difficult analog retouching. And then I wrote a book, like a story of Little Red Riding Hood Part 2, where Little Red Riding Hood is a bad guy.
Wait, you're now talking about exams
In Prague.
entering to Prague. Okay, okay.
So
I didn't
anyway,
get that.
so the point what I'm trying to say, I had really limited knowledge in photography, but I had a really, but because I had limited knowledge, I was getting the knowledge from sources that not usually people get, and that's why I got like my entry exam was like when I got to Prague, people were asking me how did you do this analog retouching. So that for me that was like probably in my life that was like the biggest leap
The first biggest
the
step.
biggest like
Maybe like landing on the moon. It's a big.
yeah,
like,
that was big leap. What about you? What
Well-
about you and staying abroad?
I guess I have similar story because also I come from smaller town and also Slovenia still, even though it's been like 20 years also for me since I did that. I would say small country is something that is like a burden, maybe a blessing and a curse at the same time for any artist stepping in the market. And when I was starting, like after the high school and all that, I really wanted to do something bigger that I could get, in my own country. As you know, right? Slovenia is kind of, the art market is really bad there. There's no art market basically. So, but still, if I wanted to get something extra, I said I will search what's the best film school because I wanted to be the best film director in the world. That was like my passion. And yeah, it was FAMU in Prague, at least according to everybody saying that, yeah, you have to go to Prague. But then I got immediately some comments that it's impossible to go to Prague. It's very limited. Why do you even want to try? Just go go to the easiest path. But I said, well, I will try my best. And I just packed my bags. I went to Prague and I applied for the examination, this entrance exam, and I got in. So that was also a really huge first step for me. It was a lot of work, of course. I had to do a lot of, I would say, struggle. Yeah, actually, I had to push myself really. And I didn't had a lot of support from I would say family and also friends. They were doubting a lot. But I would say that once you step in this mud, you just have to stay strong and keep on going.
Paddle through it.
Yeah, you have to paddle through. And I think sometimes, going into the dark, jumping into the swimming pool, which sounds scary, is something that somebody or everybody has to do.
Yes, though, this like a month ago or even less than a month ago, I was talking with one young guy who I asked him, actually from Mengesh, what will be his, where he will go for college and stuff. And he said, well, I think I'm going there and stuff, which sound great, you know. And then I said, listen, you know what? Aim as high as you can,
Yeah,
because you don't aim from your point where you are at the moment, because
that's a
in
good
one
tip.
year you will be somewhere else, and next year you'll be somewhere else. So just aim for your ideal scenario and just shoot above your reach. Just do a little bit more than you think you are capable of, because you will be surprised. Not
Yeah.
only that you will catch that level, you will surpass it.
Yeah, I think often it's very interesting actually now when I think of, for example, when we watch movies and read books, there's like stories of success, like everybody is searching for something like this gold pedestal or whatever. And that's amazing, you know, what this media is pushing on us, like, oh, you can do anything you want. But once you start doing that, all the surroundings, I think it's constantly like pushing you down. Like
Yeah.
it's a really interesting contrast for me. So also when my journey started abroad, thankfully I got into Prague, and also later on I went to Portugal. I did my master in Portugal. And then the whole career opened for me through artist residence programs. But constantly I was being pushed back by, I would say, you know, the community. It's like, oh, do you really want to do that? It's scary. I don't know, you will get robbed, you will get just into drugs or whatever. And I would say maybe that's like a safety mechanism, of course, to keep you safe. But I knew that if I want to continue working as an artist or doing something in this creative field, I have to push myself, because otherwise, you're just in the constant routine and you're stuck on the same street, in the same house,
Yeah.
and you have to broaden your surroundings.
My story is when I first went abroad is like I was in a carpentry school, and I was kind of like you know, I was smart enough not to know what is the minimum amount of work I need to do to pass
Yeah.
everything, you know. But I was never excelling in anything when I was teenager, except photography, and even that was just like my hobby. And and then when I and nobody believed that I will go to FAMU, you know, because it's like very difficult to go there, and I didn't had support from nobody at that time. And then and you know, if I'm honest, personally, I also didn't thought I can do it, but I said, you know what, I will do my best. You know, what can I lose? I
Yeah.
cannot lose anything, you know. And
I
there
have
is
a question for you,
yeah.
because it's maybe very difficult question, but how did you actually feel that you have to do that? How did you get the idea actually to even go to Prague, to even think of that?
Well, first of all, FAMU Academy, let's say, that place. There was like a lot of famous people studied there, like Milos Forman, who made a Hair musical, and what else? Um, he made another one. It was very famous, Man on the Moon, I think, or something like that.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, wasn't that him?
That's also him, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but
So and then Emir Kusturica, you know, and the cameraman.
many famous camera
Yeah,
operators. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Cameraman, DOP, Vilko Filac was the guy who was actually studied there and was like studied together with Emir Kusturica, and he did all this Palm-winning movies with Kusturica. And I got somehow his contact. He gave me contact of a student that is there at the moment, and I got some information. And then, you know, I didn't need much, because I just said anyway. The point I'm trying to say, I actually I tried. I did my best with my entry exam, and I passed it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
But
then actually that was the first time that actually my parents said, "Oh my God, you know, actually
there's something inside of
yeah,
you.
how you know," he said, "You know what? He's like really bad carpenter, and he doesn't want to do anything else. You know, and you know,
Wait, they
let's try."
said for you that you're really bad carpenter. Did
Yeah,
they say that?
yeah, of course. I
I
was
love
bad
it.
in anything, you know, like I didn't want to work, I didn't want to do
Amazing.
this, I didn't want to do
At
that.
least something.
Yeah, at least something, like you know, let him
You're
be
good
that.
for something.
And actually, I must give a huge credit to my parents, especially to my father, who changed the job to actually could finance the work And actually, not only my parents, also the local community
They supported you.
came together. Like my uncle and others, they came together and they just supported that vision. And then I went, you know.
Yeah, then the whole doors opened for an artist abroad. So now we are talking about our studies. Of course, also I spend a lot of effort of really proving to my family that they can trust me, that I can do that. But like, if we go back to why it's important that artists change, I would say, like not just their studio sometimes, but the country, the
Yeah.
culture. Would you say that we see a pattern through the years? I was when I was doing my master, I was doing master on this topic exactly, and I was inspired also when I was going through like some history, and I realized that through the hundreds of years, all the great artists, they traveled a lot.
Yeah.
They had to push themselves out of the comfort zone,
Yeah.
explore new cultures.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I think that the saying there was nobody was a messiah, nobody was a prophet in their own village. You know, you have to reach. You have to move. You have to get, and it's for one reason. People, you know, if you grow up there, you know, people, you don't have a feedback how
Yeah,
good you are,
they
and
take you for granted, I would
yeah,
say.
and you also like you're in a small community, and you have to challenge yourself and test your skills against the rest of the world. And all the famous artists, let's say Pablo Picasso, he came, he was broke. He lived in Montmartre, I think, in Paris. He came from Spain. He was hungry most of the time. Willem de Koning came from Holland. Rothko
Yeah, many.
immigrated from Lithuania to New York, you know, and so on and so on. So I think it's necessary to push yourself from the comfort zone and just to be nakedly exposed to the difficult and harsh world of art.
Yeah, and I also think every change in life for any person, not just artist, is very difficult. It's like
Yeah.
very stressful. And all this stress, I think we have to process. It's like a trauma for us, I would say, anything. Even if some people are stressed, me, for example, if the bed is like not tidy and if it's too much hassle in the apartment. So in this case, how to process this trauma. And I think the artists, when they travel, me, for example, if I go somewhere, there is a bit of stressful situation going on, but when I return back, this stays with me and it like gives me different horizon, different perspective. Also now at the moment when we are in this art fair, we see different works. Maybe some of them are trash, some of them are amazing, but I'm sure once we leave this place, some things will stay with us. So whatever new things we see, it will definitely have an impact and influence us.
Well, a change in your life, about any change, moving your flat, home, going to the gym, stop a bad habit, um, starting to be exercise. You know, even the change for better at the beginning is it gets worse. First stage is goes down. So let's say, I don't know, if you want to start exercising and going to the gym and start, you're gonna first be sore. If you want to stop eating good, that means you're, you know, part of you that craves sugar and you know, fat is going to crave that, and you have to just let this part die, you know. And if you move from your comfy flat to another country, you know, there will be
Hassle, yeah.
a big part of you like want to go back, and you know, will be, why is this necessary? And there are no sure answers. There are a lot of sweat. There is a lot of sweat, a lot of blood, some tears, and the result, you know, who knows what is coming out from that, you know. But nevertheless, I believe just do the best you can, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's amazing how you put it. I think this is very comfortable. Like when once you think about that, it gives you some, I would say, reassurance that you have to move from the spot you are at the moment. Not just for artists. I would say this is for all the people
Yeah.
It's kind of like an
And-
advice.
And when you say move, you don't that doesn't apply only to the place.
Physical moving. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it means also in your head, in your body, in your methodology, you know, whatever. Let me share one really interesting story about how did I came because I was living I've done my postgraduate studies in London. So basically I was like what 25, 26, something like that. So imagine that. I finished my BA degree. I had a degree in photography in fine arts. I went to the Cars of Benetton. I worked there. I learned how to corporate mind works and how what is necessary to do actually to pull off out this commercial career in photography. And then I said, you know what? I have BA. I would wish to have an MA, a degree, MA degree, master's. But I said, but you know, I don't want to go back to FAMU because you know I think it would be just useless to do like 2 years with the same teachers for 2 more years. Like I really didn't thought this would be useful. So I said, you know what? If I want to do that, let's find the best that I would love to do it. And I went to the British Council and I just went through the programs of photography, like all of them. And there's like it was like one photojournalism. And I read the curriculum. I said, "Oh my God, this is what I need to do. You know, this is what I need to do. This is what I want to do." So I went to the entry for entry exams. I went to London. I show my work. Of course, like I was very skilled and very passionate, and I just.
I think before you continue, the passion here is a keyword
Yeah, that you
in
will
all
come
of
back.
that.
You will
Yeah,
come
yeah,
back.
I will
Okay?
come back.
You,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
go
yeah,
for
yeah.
yourself. So I came there. I show my portfolio. I talk and you know and I said it costed I really a lot of money. It would be I don't know like the amount that my parents would earn in a year.
Phew.
Or like 1 year of study is like both of my parents full-time jobs, something like that, like huge amounts of money. And I know that I don't want to ask them. You know, this is the condition that I set to myself. I'm not going to ask them for money. I'm doing my plan was very simple. Do the entry exam, try to get money. If you don't get if you get the money, great. If you don't get the money, I'll be peaceful for the rest of my life. I tried, but the circumstances were overwhelming. And you know, who would blame somebody, you know, that you know you cannot get, I don't know, 20, 30,000 euros per year? Because at that time we were not in EU, so my tuition was double.
Ah, yeah. Oh my God.
Then would be like somebody
a big
coming
problem,
from Germany or France. So it was really a lot. So this was my conditions. You know, my plan was just do entry exams, try to get money. If you don't get money, I will be peaceful for the
done.
rest of my life.
Yeah,
This
but
was
you
my
tried.
plan.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
tried, and actually I've done the entry exams. I know that at the time I was already working on 5 a.m. project, which means that I was getting up at this 5 a.m. project we will talk about later. I've as you know, because we are in Vancouver, I'm also getting up at 4 a.m. and
To take some pictures
to
at
take
5
to take
a.m. and
pictures
before that.
around 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm doing this for 26 years already. So anyway, she said, you know, just that I've seen that you're actually getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and photographing what is going on till 5, just that you have this discipline and this will, you know, that makes like you're more than suitable to pass this course. So I said, and I told him, you know, just give me the letter of acceptance as soon as possible, because with that letter of acceptance, I can start looking for money. If I don't get money, I'm not coming here. And actually, after the interview was done, he said, just wait here a little bit in front of the office. And 10 minutes later, he came with the letters of acceptance and said, here you go, good luck.
Oh, that's so amazing.
So, yeah, and actually, to make a long story short, I did gather all the money because at that time Slovenia didn't have any higher education, so they needed people who would have like MA in photography, so they could teach and open the school here.
Yeah, that's really wow. Yeah. Have to return back to the keywords, to passion. You see here, you are a perfect example of that. I would say if somebody has passion, And if you show this passion to other people, if you share the passion with other people, sooner or later, it's like a hook, you catch the fish. I think here, if you would do the same, everything the same, but you wouldn't show this part of you which is showing the passion, you would never get the scholarship, even though you maybe would produce the same photography. But the passion, at the end of the day, it comes through. Also for myself, if I go back to my story, I also had a lot of trouble with the money. I think the money is probably, when you're young, you don't have any money. If you don't have rich parents, you're kind of stuck. But somehow I think this passion can come through even if you're young or unexperienced or whatever. I was also very passionate. I wanted to prove that I can do it. And thankfully, after the BA and MA, I found this artist in residence programs. Maybe for people who don't know what this is, it's like, especially in Europe, but also other countries around the world, countries dedicate some money to artists coming from abroad to their country. And I would say it's a great benefit, not just for the artists traveling, but also for the country receiving those artists, because of course you get people from all over the world bringing, the arts and working with local community. And usually they support you financially. They give you artist fee, they give you production fee, apartment, everything. But how to get that, it's really at the beginning when you don't have any experience. Usually you have to list in your CV, I did this residency, this, but how to start? It's like how to get a job without experience. Thankfully, I applied for one artist in residence program in Singapore. It was offered to more experienced artists, but somehow the idea for the project I applied came through, and these, curators picked at me, and this was my first artist in residency. It was in Singapore, and coming from Slovenia, from Europe, traveling all the way to the other side of the world,
Awesome.
it opened many doors for me later on. Also, when I was in Singapore, I got big award for exhibition there.
Of course.
So that's another doors being opened. But all of that happened because I showed a lot of passion. I was writing a lot. This was before ChatGPT, before all of these tools who help us now to write these long paragraphs. I was awake for many nights, writing down my thoughts. And not just that, I was showing, all the paths was leading me to that point. Even besides my school, like classic work for school, I was doing a lot of volunteer work for the different theaters and some other art companies. And somehow I got enough experience that I could push through.
Yeah.
But artist in residency programs later on kept me going for more than 10 years, constantly, traveling, getting different experience, meeting people, getting also in the craft.
Can you
the countries.
the countries that you were
Yeah. So mostly after Singapore was like Germany and Netherlands, some European countries, Italy, Spain, and then back to
Vienna,
Portugal, Vienna. Yeah, often in Vienna. In Vienna also later on, I stayed for 3 years. I worked in the Institute for Contemporary Arts in Vienna and the Academy. Maybe I can mention that working in artist in residency programs, it's like usually between a month and up to 3 years. It's like period, when you can get in. For me, most beneficial period for working as an artist was 3 months. I realized if I stay less than 3 months, I'm just a tourist. I cannot really connect with local community. But staying more than 3 months, it just becomes mundane again. It's like you became too comfortable again. So 3 months is a perfect period.
Yeah.
First month you're a tourist, second month you already start working on a project, and the third month it's like saying goodbye,
You're
basically.
Okay, so the point where let's sum up a little bit. The point being abroad is like being exposed to something very unknown, and you have to wake up, you have to be alert, you have to focus and trust your skills and trust that everything will be fine. We mentioned venues are artist residence, studying. Like I myself, I am a photographer, so basically I was a lot photographing for assignments, and I was traveling a lot.
Different companies.
Yeah, through comp. Yeah, so this is definitely one of the venues and options.
Also applying to some open calls, for example, we are at the moment, we applied our collaborative project to Canadian SciArt. This is maybe something worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So, for example, at least in art world, there's like open calls inviting artists to apply, and then they can fund the production.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
Also, the like for photography, I know that like in Arl you have portfolio reviews, and everywhere like Lodge, it's amazing in Poland. So anyway, you have like this amazing photo festivals where you have a portfolio review. If you do research, who is like offering artist residences, you can find that venues. What else?
Also, this art fair, at the moment we
Yeah.
are at the art fair, I would say this is maybe more connected also with gallery and networking and stuff like that. But still, I would say it's important to expose yourself.
Yeah.
So maybe not to be scared to be exposed. I often, when I talk with some people, especially younger artists, they're a bit afraid to be exposed. But you have to put yourself out there.
Absolutely. And you have to trust in your work, because at the end of the day, if you don't, you are the most important fan of your work. Talking about that, what advice would be if Valerie from 2026 would give to Valerie from, 2020, no,
2000.
2005, let's say,
Oof.
or 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, when I think about the beginning of my journey, I would give myself an advice to maybe spend more time organizing the archives of everything I was doing.
Okay.
Because now when I think back, everything I did, it's scattered all over the internet, all over my old computers, which are probably not even capable of running. That's something I was at the beginning, I was doing a lot of very organized, archives, but then after 2 years, I just stopped.
Okay.
And my past 10 years are completely messed up. So that's important, maybe. Rule.
So which mistakes have you made in the past that you would, this is one mistake?
That is one mistake. The second mistake
yeah.
is maybe to try a little bit more to keep contact with friends and family, because okay, now I'm getting back, I'm returning, like also I was so pumped up about going everywhere, and I was focused on where I'm going, but I just forgot about everything that happened to me in the past. So many ties were cut, which is maybe okay for some of those ties, but I just completely forgot about some connections which are now I'm re-establishing.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to live out of the suitcase basically for more years, and then just your roots, they just start to rot.
Yeah. Well, you hear applause for
Yeah.
what you just said. Well, basically,
It's really
for me, if I would give advice to my younger self, first of all, I would congratulate myself. Congratulate myself, my younger self, the passion and the dedication, and nothing can stop me, and bigger than life attitude.
That's definitely
that brought me, that was always part of me. But that's double-slipped sword, because I always knew that in photography I'm really good. Like I always knew that, if you would put me on assignment, or when I took a job,
you would deliver.
I will deliver more than I expected, and that's what I done. But for art, after I got my children, my two daughters, I dedicate myself so much into the corporate world and commercial photography that I neglected art. Nevertheless, I did created Flower Power, and which is one of the best art projects of mine. So I did create it, but I didn't pursue the artistic acknowledgements for the work, which was definitely there, but I didn't pursue to keep on going and build upon. As you know, it's like, so I would say that one of the things that I really don't like, that's one of the things that I'm
You
not
would
thankful,
change.
not thankful to Art Academy of, let's say, FAMU in Prague, is that they brought up an artist in me. So I was a little bit, how should I say, I'm an artist. You
Ah,
know, I don't
they
have to.
were
Yeah, I was.
they
Yeah,
were growing this thought or no?
yeah. That art is such a
Aha.
so high
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
above reality that we have our right, and we
That is something I
and
also got from them. Yeah.
and nowadays this might be even worse than it used to be. I'm not
Yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah.
about farm academy. I'm talking about the education.
The
Everything
system. Yeah, yeah.
now, like in photography, students, they don't even learn the craft anymore. They just talk about conceptual stuff and so on and so on. The easy stuff. You have to. But Picasso, he learned how to, or painters or musician,
That is true.
have to practice their craft every single day. Musicians, I know a student who bought his first camera when he was in the second or third year, in college, which for me was like, how is that possible? I mean, how you're a photographer, isn't that the best thing that you can buy? Anyway, but that's one of the things that I this is really good in me, that I was actually pursuing that. So I would, and then the advice that I'm still living on, the advice that I got from Martin Parr. Martin Parr is, or was, one of the most influential photographers he just died like last year or something like that. So he told me in person, when I asked him, I was organizing events also. I said, what would advice be for young photographers like me at that time? And he gave me one advice that I still live upon.
Oh, what was that?
The advice is, do whatever you do and keep on doing it until people cannot ignore you anymore.
Oh, that's amazing advice. That is true. That
Amazing
is
advice.
completely true.
Because I remember I was actually in Montreal, and one of the students said, I'm now pausing for a year of studies, and I will make my art and see how, if people want to see my art. And said, I'm sorry to tell you, but
Nobody
nobody
cares.
cares about your art. I mean, I didn't saw what he's doing, but that's how it is.
That's
That's how
true.
system works. Nobody cares about your art, and nobody will care about your art. You are the only one who cares about your art, and keep on doing it until people cannot afford to ignore you anymore.
That's completely true. And I have to also add my anecdote to that. When I was still in my BA study, on the day of diploma, I had a classmate. She was so excited, like, oh, today we get the diplomas, we finally finished, now I can become an artist. And then I said, oh, what is your plan, right? She said, well, tomorrow I will get a job. And I said, what's the job? I was excited for her. And she said, well, I don't know, I will walk out, I have diploma, I'm an artist now. And then I said, okay, but what's the plan? And she said, what plan? I will just tell everybody I'm an artist and they will hire me. And I said, who will hire you? And she then realized, well, who will hire me? She then was in such a shock on that day. She realized that on the next day she will be unemployed. And because she didn't do anything, because we walked together these 3 years, studies, or 4 years. And I was constantly doing some projects, telling her, what I'm doing. And she was just like studying. She had all the best marks, but she didn't do anything besides school. And I still know that after that day, she had like meltdown, panic attack, I don't know what else, but I never heard about her anymore. She never did any art after diploma.
That's why we as an artist, we need to go abroad. Because there is nobody who cares about us. There are no parents who would help you. There are no friends who would help you. And you are there, and
at the end of the day, you are alone.
Then are you doing your art or you're not? If you're a musician, are you picking up the
Every day.
instrument? Are you a painter? Are you painting every day?
Every day.
Do you live, or you just do this because you have to make an exam and you have to make a tick in that box?
Yeah, I think that's like perfect what we are saying now. I mean, both me and you are living this lifestyle. Also, at the moment, we are alone in the huge Canada. we are, networking, meeting new people. Just yesterday we met the consul of Slovenia, and we are meeting the ambassador. But that's all something we have to push ourselves through. We have to meet people, we have to talk with people, and there's nobody holding our hands. But now maybe we hold each other up, but that's why we have to lift each other up.
I must say that 2 decades after this advice, I'm still feeling that I still have to push on, that people will stop ignoring me or my work. And but I know that this is true, and I know that we will keep on going, and because that's that we are. This is the point of being an artist.
Passion.
You live. You don't talk. You live, and there is no choice. There is no choice. You do it.
Yeah, it's like being a sports person. Like if you want to be the most successful sportsman in the world, you have to practice every day. This is the same. I would say maybe not just sport and culture or arts, but also being great accountant, like bus driver, anything. You have to push yourself, do this every day.
That's right.
So maybe to wrap up today's podcast, we have to mention again, we're going to Montreal. Borut is doing workshop there. Also, maybe you can give a hint that you will do online workshops as well. This is something coming up soon. So stay tuned.
We are, that's the thing. Like I'm doing these workshops for so long, and I'm really successful. I know I can teach well, and I know I have a system. I'm doing it for 2 decades already. And now with the help of this lady,
she's thinking about me.
She has a PhD in science, and she's an expert in artificial intelligence and computer and new media and this stuff.
We will definitely talk in some of the podcast about that as well.
And with her help, I know that we can do, with her support, I know that my knowledge, my way of explaining things can go online, especially because I have a method, but not about that today.
We will talk about that tomorrow. So whoever is interested into Borut workshops, please go to borutpeterlin.com. You can read more about photography and all that stuff. Please subscribe to our podcast. It's amazing how much support we got. There's too much views. We thought it's going to be much less, but
we thought it would be like
I think
100,
maybe
200, and then
our passion is
30,000.
I hope reaching you through the podcast. And the point of this podcast is to show that we can lift each other up, not just me and Borut, but also you guys who are listening, who are watching. Tell us what you're thinking, and maybe a hint what you want to listen in the next episode.
This is lifting up now.
It was a pleasure, and now we continue with the art.